Okay, we're good to go.
All right, everybody, welcome to the second episode of Amateur Theory. Um, Today we're going to be talking about Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. This was originally going to be one long episode, but yesterday, as we started talking about the second film, we started running into some technical difficulties, and so today is the next day. We decided to just split them. This is going to be a second full episode for just this sequel, although we're going to be referencing the original film as we talk. Also, we realized, kind of after the fact, that we never properly introduced ourselves in that first episode.
No,
So
we
I'm
did
going to take
not.
a moment to do that now. My name is Braden, and I live in Baltimore, Maryland.
I'm JL. I'm in Seoul, Korea, on the
And
complete opposite side of the world.
mhm. And we've been friends for almost 10 years. We talk, or more than 10 years, and we have talked about movies as long as I've known JL. That's something we both like doing. We both like criticizing movies. So we decided,
Oh, it's always
let's
fun to trash talk a bad film. Always
let's
fun.
let's try to make a podcast doing that.
Yeah.
And so this is it. This is Amateur Theory.
Right.
So let's hop into it, I guess.
Yeah, Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. I
Mhm.
guess technically the sequel to the first Vampire Hunter D film.
Yeah, because
Came
it's a
out.
sequel for the books too, right?
It's
Like, I think it's based
based
on the
on
third
the
book.
third book. Yes.
Yeah.
Why they skipped the second book, I don't know. um, Yeah, this came out in 2015, years after the original movie. It's directed by Yoshiaki Kawajiri, who's probably best known for doing Ninja Scroll, which was a big anime movie back in the mid 90s, kind of helped popularize the medium in the States. And this was, I think, his film right after that.
Yeah, and
And
I think baseline we can just say off the bat, this is just a better movie in almost every way than the original 1980s. Uh,
yeah, we said
it's,
earlier that we like to trash talk movies. That's what we want to do on this podcast. But this movie is a little different because this is actually a pretty great film, I
yeah.
think.
So I guess we can start by just talking about how the movie looks, the animation. This
Yes,
movie is like very pretty, right? Like
yes, this
it's
is a gorgeous looking movie. The animation really stands out. Like as soon as it starts, you'll notice it. And I'm pretty sure it's completely hand drawn because computer effects weren't quite as pervasive in the medium yet. I think in the early 2000s, and the animation still holds up. Like it still looks just as good today as I'm sure when it came out in the 2000s.
yeah, it definitely holds up. Interesting tidbit about this movie is that even though it's a Japanese animation, it was actually released in America first. Like the dub is the Japanese version. This is kind of funny. This was released in Japanese theaters, actually, it was originally released in English with Japanese subtitles. This was the Japanese release.
Yeah,
It's just kind of an unusual tidbit about this one.
yeah, you're supposed to watch it in English. In fact, I think if you buy the DVD or Blu-ray, the stateside version at least, like there is no Japanese audio track. It's just English.
Which is because I think this was made in Japan, right? Like this is not
Oh yeah,
an
this is
American-made movie.
totally, yeah,
Yeah.
totally
So,
in Japan.
but yeah, I guess delving into the movie, just a brief synopsis of the plot. Uh, Similar to last time in the original movie, this movie is kind of a series of fights, kind of over and over till the end, right? But
Yeah.
the difference is that this time, I think all the characters are very interesting, right? Like Vampire Hunter D is definitely more interesting in this movie.
Oh yeah, his character's
Then
fleshed out a bit more. Um,
yeah, the villains. There's like the main villain, or at least the starting villain, and then there's like the secret boss villain, which comes later. Um, I mean, they're all have interesting stories, and then there's these side characters, these side mercenaries. So just kind of the setup of the film is this woman is kidnapped. Right at the beginning, that's all you know. You just know she's kidnapped, and they hire two groups to rescue her. So they hire Vampire Hunter D, our protagonist, and then they also hire this like group of vampire hunters who ride around in this like tank van.
Yeah,
Um,
the tank van. It's a pretty cool
yeah,
car.
and so it's half of trying to rescue this girl, and half a competition between Vampire Hunter D and this group of vampire hunters. So it's a weird mix where they're not outright hostile to each other, at least most of the time, but they are. There's a rivalry there for sure, and that creates an interesting dynamic.
Yeah. And it's also interesting to note because, well, as the plot goes on, like you learn more and more things unfold. Like there's a couple times when they catch up with the kidnapped girl who's been kidnapped by a vampire, and she says that she doesn't want to be rescued. She wants to stay
And
with the vampire.
I guess this would be the time. I promised in last episode we would mention spoilers before they happened. So
Oh
this
yeah,
is spoiler warning now. Everything from here on out. Spoilers.
yeah. Not too much of
Yeah.
a spoiler. You learn that she doesn't want to be kidnapped within like the first 20 minutes.
Yeah. But
Or I mean, she doesn't want to be rescued.
right. So yeah, there's the vampire who rescues her, and the kidnapped
Kidnaps
woman
her.
are actually in love. That's
Yeah.
the interesting dynamic. So it becomes like a question of like is what the vampire hunters are doing actually like the righteous thing, right? Like is it actually good? There's kind of like a moral dilemma there, and just to kind of show like the vampire who captures the woman um, doesn't want to bite her, or at least like he has like an urge to, but he doesn't because
Yeah.
of some like
And she actually wants him to bite
noble.
her.
Right, she wants to turn to a vampire, but he refuses because he's like it's being kind of noble. Doesn't want her to lose his humanity. So you can tell that the vampire's kind of a good guy, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's not an outright villain.
Yeah.
Like there's not really a villain, an outright villain in the movie, except for maybe someone who shows up towards the end.
Yeah.
The secret boss character.
Right.
Yeah, but that makes for like a interesting story and good dynamics because I mean, like real life, like no one thinks they're the bad guy.
Yeah. And I mean, we talked about last time in the original film, the bad guy's motivation was summed up by the fact that they were bored. And
Yeah,
that's
that was
about
it.
as lazy as a motivation as you could possibly have. Vampire Hunter D in the original didn't seem to have any kind of. I guess one thing I was interested in this one is that his kind of relationship with the fact that he's a half vampire, half human becomes much more consequential. Like in the original movie, it's like alluded to a couple times, but there's nothing really comes of it. Whereas in this one, there's kind of like an analogy to racism, right? Like there's that
Yeah,
moment where like he goes in to buy a horse, and
the sheriff
like
and the townsfolk come
sheriff,
in and tell him to,
right, and they're like threatening him
go
because he's
away.
a half vampire. But then the horse salesman stands up for him, and it turns out that in the past, I guess Vampire Hunter D saved his life. And it
Yeah,
also has this interesting fact you learn that Vampire Hunter D like doesn't age. He's
yeah,
been alive
because he's
for
a
thousands of years.
vampire.
Yeah, so that's but then
Yeah,
that also kind of made things interesting.
yeah, I like that scene because I mean it subtly develops his character. You realize that he actually kind of does have an impact on the world.
Mm-hmm. And then he also we talked about it in the original that there is a like a character in Vampire Hunter D's hand. His hand has a mouth. And
Yeah,
it talks. And in the original,
it's kind of weird.
yeah,
Yeah,
in the original, the hand kind of was just kind of like a creepy demon guy, and he wanted to eat things with this. He didn't really talk much. In
yeah,
this
he
one,
did. Like he just sassed him a couple times, but
yeah, But much more in this one, the hand seemed to be a outlet for Vampire Hunter D's anxieties. So like Vampire Hunter D, even though in this one he's also doesn't talk too much, because the hand kind of says what Vampire Hunter D is thinking, he becomes a much more fleshed out character. Right? So Vampire Hunter D is doing all this badass stuff, but then the hand is talking about, how I can't remember all the specifics, but like his anxieties about being a vampire, the fact that maybe he might not make it out of this one alive. That's brought up multiple times, that he might die.
Yeah, and that he still has those like vampiric urges. Like,
yeah,
there's that scene. There's a scene I like early on where I think like they've just had a fight, the bounty hunters, Vampire Hunter D, and the vampire, that's kidnapped the woman's trying to run away. And after it all happens, the female bounty hunters, like I think she's like badly wounded, she's like almost unconscious, and Dee's riding by, and the hand's like, oh, like you want to suck her blood, right? I know you do. She's like right there. And it's funny because Dee actually stops and he turns to go towards her, and the hand's just like, wait, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm just kidding. And then the unconscious woman bounty hunter, I think she like says like mother, because she's kind of in a trance. And Dee actually helps her out. He bandages her wounds while she's unconscious. And when she wakes up, she's kind of like I guess sort of angry at the situation, I guess, because she was kind of helpless.
Yeah.
But I just like that she says like, do you expect thanks or something like that, and he's like, you should like go home or something, and she says, you're not my mother, and he's like, well, I heard you calling out to her. So, and just
like say that their relationship, so she's like the main female protagonist, their relationship is a billion times more interesting than the last movie, like between her and Vampire Hunter D. And because the other girl, she gets kidnapped a lot, she falls in love with Vampire Hunter D because he's a badass. There's no chemistry at all on screen. Like they never have like
really
a conversation or just none of that. He just doesn't talk. He like kind of broods, and she just fawns over him. That's their entire relationship. But in this one, they actually have like several moments that are like kind of there feels like an actual romantic tension there, which doesn't turn into anything, but like you feel it, and that kind of makes it all the more like satisfying when what starts out somewhat kind of seem like romantic turns into more of a friendship. And that's actually
there's a real humanity there between them.
Yeah,
because I mean, at first in the movie, like she doesn't like it. She kind of has it out for him, and she's the one that tells the sheriff and townsfolk that he's in town so they can bother him. But then there's that moment when Dee's wounded, like he's buried himself in the ground, because he has to recover, and she's kind of like stuck in the same place because he's in a tree. She's stuck in the tree too because it's raining outside, and she just can't go anywhere. And they have just this nice little moment where she opens up a little bit.
She saves him. She saves his life because she buries him. I guess it's like sunny out, and he's going to die because of the sun, and she buries him.
I thought he just buried himself.
I think no, because then she talks about how they're even. It's like he saved her life, and then she saves his life. I'm pretty sure.
Might have to go back and watch the movie.
But so yeah, they have and then at the very end, there's a very touching moment. So during that conversation, they make a deal. They say, whoever dies first, I promise that I'll go to your funeral, because they both think that they're gonna die without anyone who wants to come, because they're both kind of loners.
Yeah, well, she brings it up, and she like kind of says it because she says the rain makes her, like what's the word I'm looking for?
Sentimental.
Sentimental. And she says, like I'd like it if someone, when I die, like if a friend comes and put flowers on my grave. And Dee says, I'll do it. Yeah. And then she kind of tries to quickly brush it off. She's like, I'm only joking, it's just the rain that's making me feel this way. and it pays off in the end.
Yeah, and like a very very nice way. Like that ending actually was like I felt kind of emotional. Like it was
Yeah,
very very
no,
nice. I really appreciated it.
it's a great ending. Kind of bittersweet, but at the
Yeah.
same time, kind of like feel good. You're like,
Mm.
oh, D, I like you.
Yeah. I guess we could talk about some of the other characters. So this girl is not alone. She's part of the ragtag group that is
Yeah, the
in
bounty
the
hunters.
fan tank, and the bounty hunters are all interesting people. They all have their own things
Colorful
going.
group of characters.
Yeah. So there's the gruff like leader who has this like automatic crossbow weapon, um, and uh, he seems kind of a jovial guy, but as his friends start dying, which almost everyone in their team dies, he gets more and more like angry and emotional, and that's kind of an interesting development for him. Then there is the big guy with like
The hammer or something.
yeah, like a hammer. He is the first one to die, so you learn about him the least. But he's just kind of you can tell he's friends with everyone in the group. And then perhaps the most interesting person is this sickly person.
Yeah, in a bed.
Yeah,
Like,
he's in a bed, and they inject him with like some kind of serum or something. And when they do that, he turns into this like I shouldn't say he turns into, because he's still there in the bed, but somehow I don't
he
know if it's
like
like his
releases
mind or
his like a
something.
spirit
Yeah, he
or
becomes like
something.
this like ghost phantom type
Angel thing.
figure. Yeah, who like is like he's actually the strongest one in that form. Um, and actually, my very favorite scene in the movie is the first time they introduced this character, or at least this ability of his, um, because it's a very cool scene where they're in this like den of evil. There's all these like demons all around, and then he comes out as almost like a Christ figure. Like I say that, I hope
Yeah.
no doesn't offend anybody or anything, but he comes out very angelic. He's like full of light, and he like just zaps them all away. Just a very very cool, very visually interesting, and also just like very creative. Like I don't think I ever would have thought, if I was coming up with like a ragtag group of mercenary guys, that's not the weapon I would give someone. Like a
Yeah.
drug that turns you into a ghost. That and then the reason that he's sickly is because of this drug. It's
Yeah,
never
when
explicitly stated, but like you kind of glean that from what's happening around him. Every time he takes the drug that turns into a ghost, he seems to get more. His physical body gets more and more sickly, and that's an interesting relationship with the other characters, because other characters go out and fight. He stays inside most of the time, but
yeah, they
then
only
sometimes
use him in the
he does.
most desperate situations.
Yeah, and actually, I think the last time he does it, it's despite the team not wanting him to. Right, the other team didn't want him to,
Yeah,
but he just feels like he has to. So it's kind of like a self-sacrifice going on.
yeah. And it's almost kind of like a metaphor for drug use because like
Yeah,
they inject him with this serum and when he's in his angelic form, he has this kind of like I don't know, like languorous like smile on his face, like he's in a daze.
yeah.
Like he's
And
kicking
he
ass, but
looks drugged, right?
it doesn't look like he's putting any effort in or trying to do it. He's just kind of like floating around like ah. And
Do you
then when
think
he's
it
off the
was
drug,
like?
he huh?
Do you think it is like a direct analogy to heroin? I definitely like saw that, like with the needle, and then like his expression, the fact that it's killing him. Like there's so many parallels there, but I wasn't sure.
I don't know if that was the filmmaker's intent, but like yeah, you can easily make that metaphor. Like it's it's there. I don't know if it was intentionally there, but it is kind of there.
And then are we missing? Is there the four people? It's the
Yeah.
girl, the
There's the
captain.
one guy who has the like blades that like
Yeah,
spin around kind of.
and he's
Um
kind of like the sassy one.
yeah, sort of. They go into town, I remember. And he tells the lady bounty hunter, he's like something about like he's like, um, you're attractive, so like be careful. I don't know. He says it in a more witty way. I can't
Yeah.
remember the exact quote. Um,
Yeah, but they're an interesting cast of characters. And then one thing that kind of differentiated this movie from the last one is it creates stakes because right from the beginning, like we said, the big guy dies pretty early on,
oh yeah,
and more of
everyone's
them
vulnerable
die.
in this movie. Like
Yeah,
you
so
don't feel
like
like anyone's invincible, really.
right, and even Vampire Hunter D, even though it seems kind of cheap, the fact that he says over and over like I don't think I'm gonna make this one out alive. Like I don't like even though like maybe that's it actually was pretty effective in kind of making you like worry about him.
Yeah. Well, the scene where he kind of like collapses because he's been out in the sun. I think that really helps show his like
Yeah, vulnerability.
yeah, the fact that he might not make it because he's not even fighting. Like he just had a fight. He seems okay, but then he just collapses,
Hmm.
and the hand's like, "Oh, you idiot! You've been out in the sun too long. Now you have to like bury yourself like for like a day or so and actually like recover."
Yeah, no, it was great, and then it culminates. They eventually everyone in the team dies except for the girl. Um, but it culminates with Vampire Hunter D and the girl, and then the vampire couple, the kidnapped girl and the vampire guy, have this interesting plan. Their plan from the start was to go into this like castle rocket and fly into.
Is it
I
to
can't remember what they
Mars?
call it. Well,
Or
they,
no,
they,
is
don't,
it a
they never
different
mention
planet?
explicitly. They
Oh,
say something
okay.
like it's like the dark place where vampires are welcome or something like that.
Okay.
And then, but like it's like something about space, right? Like somewhere in space, they want to go so they can be in love together, and they do it through this, um, like the ghost of a powerful vampire. Like she's dead, but not really. Like vampires
Yeah.
are already dead, but she's more dead.
Yeah.
But
Well,
she like remains as a spirit, but her body can be resurrected.
yeah, and her plan is all along was to lure the vampire and the kidnapped lady into the castle, um, like under the pretense that they could escape, but she actually wants to like kill them and absorb their energy so she can, I guess, resurrect and become
Yeah.
powerful again.
And then she actually succeeds at first. Like she does kind of half resurrect, but then Vampire Hunter D saves the day, um, and I believe they. For anyone watching, we saw this movie a little while ago. So in the future, we'll make these sooner from watching the movie. But I believe the couple, the woman dies. The woman dies. Does he turn her into a vampire? Like they get away, right? Like they rocket away
Yeah.
at the end.
No,
But it's
yeah, you
only
see,
after like the guy is alive, but the girl is dead.
I think so. Or yeah, I think she might be dead, and he's maybe thinking of maybe trying to resurrect her in the dark place. I don't know. But
It's not really stated.
um
Yeah,
the rocket does take off at the climax of the movie.
yeah, and so and importantly, the vampire hunter D gets some kind of piece of her clothing to give back to the family so that he can still get the bounty.
I
But
actually forgot about that.
so he like the bounty hunter wins, so to speak, and he gives the girl hunter a ride back to town, and I don't think she got any of the reward. But then it's alluded to that she retires. Like she has been doing this vampire hunter life, but she retires, and that's why at the end, in this kind of touchy moment, she thinks she's going to be alone in the grave, and only Vampire Hunter D is going to visit her. But actually, she's surrounded by loved ones.
Yeah.
Um, and as we learned that Vampire Hunter D doesn't age, so this is far in the future. She died at an old age, but then he comes and visits, he does the thing where like the shady guy.
Yeah, he's off in the
Back at the
distance,
grave.
like next to a tree.
Atmosphere, but I mean, it works for him. Like you wouldn't expect anything else for Vampire Hunter D.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, just the fact that he shows up is. Aw.
yeah. So I mean, just to reiterate, this is actually like a good movie. There's nothing about it that is, overly corny or cheesy, even by anime standards. And like it's anyone who enjoys like a contemporary sci-fi or gothic horror, I think, could be recommended this easily, even
Oh
if they're
yeah.
not fans.
No, like if you're into uh like horror action anime at all, like I definitely recommend this. This is like perfect gothic animation. It's like it I don't think it really gets much better than this. When it comes to, I guess, yeah, gothic anime. Although to be fair, I haven't seen a ton of anime, but
Yeah, I mean, things I think you would compare this to in that vein would be what's it called?
Helsing,
Yeah, Hellsing, and
which
then
is way
Castlevania.
different. I
Well, I
mean,
mean, yeah,
like, yeah,
and
they both have
Castlevania is probably a little
vampires.
more similar. But yeah, that's basically where it ends and goes. But
Yeah.
that's the closest things I can think of. Um, but yeah, just short thoughts. We would recommend this.
Oh,
It is
definitely.
good.
Yeah. And you don't have to watch the first movie to see this. So you
Yeah,
can skip the first one and just watch this.
yeah. Personally, I actually watched them out of order. I watched this one first, and then watched the second one, and I do not think it lessened my enjoyment at all. Like they're unrelated. Um,
Yeah, they're like really different movies, actually.
yeah, yeah. This one takes itself so much more seriously. Like there's very little humor. Like there's some back and forth between the mercenary group, but the fact that they're dying all the time kind of like dampens any kind of
Yeah.
familiar joke they might have been making. So it's a pretty serious movie. Um, so yeah, if that's what you're looking for a fun action flick, then give this one a shot. And I
Yeah.
think we can probably end it there, unless you
Okay.
have anything else to say.
Uh, no, I just what he said. Check it out. Good movie.
All right. Well, until next time, this has been Amateur Theory, Episode 2. Goodbye.
Peace out.